The taste of blood is perhaps best described as a sort of wine. Some wine is finely aged, properly created. This wine is much preferred. Some wine is sour. The only difference between wine and blood is the fact that the wine is labeled. You know exactly what sort of wine you are buying. There's a name brand and a price tag to ensure you that you get taste for your dollar. Blood, on the other hand, is more of a guess. You draw it from your victim and take a taste, hoping it will be a much better quality. Though you can never know for certain. With this in mind, it is always a good idea for whomever to draw blood, to take a taste, a slight dab on the edge of your knife after the deed is done. And if the blood matches your preferred taste, proceed to drain your victim of the marvelous liquid. My name is Martin Echelon, and I'm a serial killer. My first victim was Martha Dern, a lovely brunette who I did not actually mean to kill. You see, Martha and I were young, about 9, when I accidentally pushed her onto a large rusted pipe, sending it through her stomach and pulling the intestine through her body. I, being the dull and kind-hearted boy I was, ran to her to see if she was all right, and due to my nervous habit of chewing my fingernails, ended up tasting her blood. It was quite an amazing experience, and even though it was sad I had lost my friend Martha, it stirred my love for the act, and my love for the blood. After her death, I saw a psychiatrist for quite some time, fooling her into believing I was still completely innocent, still a virgin to the thrill. After that, I was free to delve into my desires. Currently, I'm finishing my victim 27. This kill is a masterpiece. Having removed his organs with a clean cut, a skill I picked up over the years. I had inserted several homemade javelins into various points in his body, holding his husk suspended in its place over his bed. His organs lay underneath him, arranged in a neat and orderly line, save for the heart, which I had devoured quite some time ago. His blood was of fine taste, and so I had drained every drop from him, leaving what remained of his body to look like a deflated balloon instead of a human. Now you may ask, why are you so brutal, Martin? Your usual style of killing was just to drain the blood and eat the heart if the blood was an enjoyable taste. What had this man ever done to you? Well, the answer is simple. He deserved it. A fucking copycat he was. A lame brain, non-original loser. How dare he come into my city and kill what could have been my victims? He thinks he's all that. With just 3 kills before tonight. How pathetic can he be? I started out as just one brutal murder, one that I actually enjoyed hearing about. He had decapitated a middle-aged gentleman, and stuffed the man's, for a lack of better word, penis in his mouth. The body was found hanging from a tree all the way across town. Quite some effort went into that. But then a second body was found, this time of a girl who had found tied to a pole on Sutter Road. That's when I realized this man had swept in to try to take over my territory. So the brutality of my murders began to increase. I suffocated a man with his own intestines. I had chopped a man into hundreds of tiny bits, using his very own butcher's knife. But both men's blood tasted sour. I couldn't enjoy them at all. To make matters worse, the police had credited my murders to him. How fucking dare they? Then this third murder showed up. A woman had been found with her breasts cut off and her implants shoved up her, for lack of a better term, vagina. That's when I decided to strike back, killing the wife of one of the officers who I had learned was assigned to my case, tying her to a tree right in Grenadier Park, and setting her ablaze, watching as her skin boiled, blistered, and popped. I even forced myself to drink her sour blood, forced myself to eat her rotten heart. But to my horror, they said the new killer, the copycat, the fake, had done it as an act to scare off police. I was furious. And then it struck me. All I had to do to catch him was to think like him. So I did. I searched, hunted, stalked, and waited. For 3 long months, I had not made a move, and neither did he. But just as I was about to lose all hope, I found him, as I walked down a beach on the far side of the town, a small one, where I had once kidnapped a young girl who had fallen asleep. I saw him. He stood over the body of a man, face down in water, which ran red with blood and brain matter, his foot on his back and a long machete in hand, which ended in the back of the man's head. And I just knew it. I was just gonna shoot his leg, make him vulnerable. But unfortunately, I couldn't contain my joy. I began to laugh. That's when he noticed me, and he began to charge. However, I didn't budge. Instead, I waited until he was close enough and drew my gun. He stopped dead in his tracks. We exchanged some heated words until I revealed I was a serial killer myself. A much more prominent, accomplished, and professional one at that. I told him that he needed to move on, and that this was my city. He, however, claimed that his killings were greater works of art than my own. The audacity of this second-degree hack was stunning. How fucking dare he compare himself to my glory? I am unmatched. I am a god amongst men. All shall fear my existence. They shall feed me, please me. I will not be made a fool of. My apologies. I did not mean to snap like that. Now, where was I? Oh yes. The hack then proceeded to challenge me, telling me that in one night I could not bring more hearts to the very same beach at which as he could. I, of course, agreed, and even allowed him to count the mans he had already killed, knowing very well that such a pathetic fool could not top a master such as myself, regardless of any sort of head start. So we were off. The first man I killed was a homeless man, not far from the beach where I had my rather unpleasant rendezvous. I quickly killed him, stabbing him several times until he stopped kicking under me, then quickly ripped his chest apart and tearing the heart from the cavity, placed it in the backpack which I had been carrying. As was agreed in our contest, he would mark the victims with a symbol to specify that it was, in fact, our kill. Was to not represent the same tragedy that I was forced to endure with my work was credited to the underling. One was obviously not enough. So off I went. I decided I would knock a few out of the park. Small diner, about 5 blocks away from my location, was just closing. I knew 5 men and women worked there. They would be the only ones in the diner at that time. I sprinted there, bursting in the front. A few came up to tell me the diner was closed. The fools. I nodded and proceeded to shoot the 2 gentlemen who had greeted me right between the eyes with my silenced pistol. I walked around the counter, and just as a woman opened the door to see what the clatter was about, had picked up a dish and smashed it against her face, causing it to break and her to spurt blood and scream. This alerted the other men and women who were in the back, and as they rushed to see what was the matter, I quickly dispatched the woman and the men, attempting to subdue me, as if this insignificant specimen could ever stop a grander being as myself. I ended up smacking his head against the counter, repeatedly, until brain matter began to cover the front of my black hoodie. I then turned to the girl, and as she begged for her life, proceeded with the operation. As far as I had killed 6, I wondered how many my opponent had managed to take down. I had no time to think, however, as I began to hear police sirens not too far away. Perhaps our spree could not have gone unnoticed, but I couldn't just go. Not yet. I had to see how many he killed. So I ran to the beach, found that the fool had the same idea as I. He quickly removed the 5 hearts from his bag, and I removed 6. That was a solid victory. But then he was reminded that I allowed him to include the first man's heart as well. He began to laugh, attempting to say it would appear that we were equals. I tied him. He fucking tied me. Equals? He accused me of being his equal. To think that this would be the end of our contest? I would not have it. It would not allow it. I am the Great One. I am the ruler of all things. Not one could stand up to my greatness. They should all shudder at the thought of my face, of my voice. Apologies again, dearest listeners. Back to the story. The police sirens were getting close, so with a grin he told me to follow him. We fled to the scene, jumping over fences and rushing through backyards until we reached his home. As he told me, I could fall asleep on his couch until morning the search would blow over, laughing the whole time and saying that we could be partners, exclaiming his excitement for the next day's newscast. If only he knew, he would never get to see it. I waited until he was asleep, and then my work began. So here I am, the winner as always. I can never lose, you see. I am a god amongst men. If you are listening to this, I must say you are lucky. To hear something by such a gifted mind as my own is surely an honor. But now that you know my name, you are a liability. I'm not scared. Tell whomever you wish. I am unstoppable. Who knows, maybe you could be my 28th. Perhaps. But I have more work to do. An artist's work is never finished.